These are the most hated countries in the world. From political controversies to social conflicts, these nations have received significant negative attention globally. Today, we delve into what makes them the most polarizing figures on the world stage. Let's jump in. India, often celebrated for its diverse culture and economic growth, also faces significant criticism and scrutiny on several fronts. One of the most contagious issues is the Kashmir conflict, a long-staging territorial dispute between India and Pakistan. The region of Kashmir has been a focal point of tension and violence for decades, with both countries claiming it in its entirety. The conflict has resulted in numerous human rights violations, including allegations of excessive use of force by security forces, arbitrary detentions, and restrictions of freedom of speech and assembly. The presence of armed insurgent groups and cross-border infiltration adds a complexity to the situation. In addition to Kashmir's conflict, India grapples with internal challenges such as religious intolerance and caste-based discrimination. Incidents of communal violence, targeted attacks on religious minorities, and caste-based atrocities that have raised concerns both domestically and internationally. Pakistan, India's neighbor and historical rival, also faces a range of internal and external challenges contributing to its negative perception on the global stage. The country has a tumultuous political history marked by periods of military rule, democratic transitions, and ongoing power struggles between civilian governments and the military establishment. One of the primary sources of international concern regarding Pakistan is its role in the regional conflicts, particularly the Kashmir dispute with India. Pakistan's support for militant groups operating in the region, alleged cross-border terrorism, and nuclear capabilities have heightened tensions and drawn international scrutiny. Internally, Pakistan grapples with issues such as religious extremism, sectarian violence, and challenges to freedom of expression. Attacks by extremist groups targeting religious minorities, journalists, and activists have raised alarms about the state of human rights and security in the country. Israel's inclusion on the list of the most hated countries stems primarily from its ongoing conflict with Palestine, particularly concerning the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, marked by decades of violence, failed peace talks, and territorial disputes, remains one of the most complex and continuous issues in the Middle East. Criticism of Israel often focuses on its policies regarding settlements in disputed territories, restrictions on Palestinian movement and rights, and military actions in response to security threats. The construction of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, considered illegal under international law, has drawn condemnation from the international community and has been a major obstacle to peace negotiations. Furthermore, Israel's security measures, including the construction of barriers and checkpoints, have been criticized for the impact of Palestinian civilians' daily lives and freedoms. The cycle of violence, including periodic escalations of conflict and humanitarian cries, contributes to a climate of animosity and distrust. However, Israel also highlights its achievements in various fields, including technology, innovation, and democratic governance. Iraq has faced significant challenges and international scrutiny, particularly in the aftermath of the Iraq War and the subsequent years of instability and conflict. The US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003, based on allegations of weapons of mass destruction that were later found to be false, resulted in widespread devastation, loss of life, and societal upheaval. The post-war period in Iraq was marked by sectarian violence, insurgency, and struggle to establish a stable democratic government. The rise of extremist groups such as ISIS further destabilized the region, leading to humanitarian cries and international condemnation of atrocities committed by these groups. Iraq's political landscape is complex, with challenges related to governance, corruption, and ethno-sectarian tensions. Efforts to rebuild infrastructure, restore security, and promote reconciliation among diverse communities have been ongoing but face numerous obstacles. Despite these challenges, Iraq possesses significant cultural and historical heritage. including ancient architectural sites and rich cultural tapestry. Iran's position as one of the most hated countries in the world is influenced by several factors, including its strained relations with Western powers, concerns about its nuclear program, and allegations of supporting militant groups in the region. The nuclear deal negotiations and subsequent tensions over compliance have added complexity to Iran's international image. Human rights issues, including restrictions on freedom of expression, political dissent, and treatment of minorities, have also drawn criticism from human rights organizations and the international community. The Iranian government's crackdown on protest and civil liberties have raised concerns about democratic principles and governance. Iran's involvement in regional conflicts, particularly in Syria and Yemen, has further strained relations with neighboring countries and global powers. Proxy conflicts and geopolitical rivalries contribute to a volatile regional landscape, impacting Iran's standing in diplomatic relations. Despite these challenges, Iran maintains a diverse and vibrant society with a rich cultural heritage, artistic contributions, and highly educated population. Efforts to engage in diplomacy, address internal reforms, and navigate complex geopolitical dynamics continue to shape Iran's global perception and relations. North Korea, under the leadership of Kim Dynasty and its secretive regime, has earned a reputation as one of the most isolated and authoritarian states in the world. The country's pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missile capabilities, coupled with aggressive rhetoric and threats, has raised international concerns and led to sanctions and diplomatic tensions. Human rights abuses, including political repression, forced labor camps, and limited freedoms, have been documented by human rights organizations and defectors, drawing condemnation from the international community. The lack of transparency and access to information within North Korea contributes to our perception of opacity and control by the ruling elite. North Korea's provocative actions, including missile tests and occasional military skirmishes, contribute to regional instability and diplomatic challenges. Efforts to engage in dialogue, denuclearization negotiations, and humanitarian assistance faced obstacles amid geopolitical complexities and security concerns. Despite its isolation, North Korea maintains a distinct cultural identity and societal structure, albeit with limited external interaction and scrutiny. The dynamics of inter-Korean relations, international diplomacy, and security dynamics in Northeast Asia shape perceptions of North Korea and its role in global affairs. Saudi Arabia, despite its economic and strategic significance in the Middle East, has faced criticism and controversy on several fronts. One of the most prominent issues is the kingdom's human rights record, particularly concerning women's rights, freedom of expression, and treatment of dissidents. The case of Jamal Khashoggi, a Saudi journalist and dissident killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey, sparked international outrage and scrutiny of Saudi Arabia's actions. The incidents highlighted concerns about freedom of the press, political dissent, and the use of diplomatic facilities for nefarious purposes. Saudi Arabia's involvement in the Yemeni civil war, including airstrikes and humanitarian crises, has drawn condemnation from human rights organizations and calls for accountability for civilian casualties. The kingdom's regional policies, including relations with Iran and support for certain factions in regional conflicts, contribute to geopolitical tensions and diplomatic challenges. Despite these criticisms, Saudi Arabia plays a significant role in global energy markets as a major oil producer and exporter. Efforts to diversify the economy, promote social reforms, and engage in international initiatives such as Vision 2030 aim to reshape the kingdom's image and address internal and external challenges. The United States, as a global superpower and influential power in the international affairs, faces both admiration and criticism for its policies, actions, and cultural impact. While the US is often lauded for its democratic principles, innovation, and economic prowess, it also grapples with complex challenges and controversies. One of the major sources of criticism towards the US is its foreign policy. including military interventions, alliances, and perceived interference in other country affairs. The Iraq War, drone strikes in various regions, and support for authoritarian regimes have sparked debates about the US's role in promoting stability and democracy globally. Domestically, the US faces challenges such as systemic racism, income inequality, and political polarization. Issues like gun violence, healthcare, disparities, and environmental concerns also contribute to internal divisions and criticisms of the government's policies. Despite these challenges, the US remains a hub of innovation, cultural exchange, and diverse communities. Efforts to address social issues, promote human rights, and engage in multilateral diplomacy continue to shape the country's global image and influence. Russia's role in global affairs is characterized by its historical legacy, geopolitical ambitions, and complex relations with other nations. The country's actions in Crimea, including the annexation of the region in 2014, led to international condemnation and sanctions from the Western powers. Allegations of Russian interference in foreign elections, cyber attacks, and disinformation campaigns have strained relations with the United States and European Union countries. The annexation of Crimea and ongoing conflicts in eastern Ukraine contribute to regional tensions and diplomatic challenges. Internally, Russia faces scrutiny over human rights issues, including restrictions of freedom of speech, political opposition, and treatment of minorities. Cases of political repression, such as the imprisonment of the opposition figures and activists, draw criticism from human rights organizations and democratic countries. Despite these challenges, Russia maintains significant influence in global energy markets, military capabilities, and diplomatic engagements. Efforts to navigate international relations, address domestic reforms, and pursue strategic interests shapes Russia's standing in the global community. China's rise as a global economic powerhouse has been accompanied by both admiration and criticism, reflecting its complex role in international affairs. The country's rapid economic growth, technological advancements, and global trade influence has positioned it as a key player in the 21st century global landscape. However, China also faces scrutiny and condemnation on various fronts. One of the most significant issues is its human rights record, including condemns about political freedoms, censorship, and treatment of ethnic minorities. The situation in Xinjiang, where Muslims face mass detentions and alleged human rights abuses, has drawn international condemnation and calls for accountability. China's policies in Tibet, including restrictions on religious freedoms and cultural autonomy, have also been sources of criticism and tensions with the international community. Efforts to suppress dissent, control information flow, and monitor citizens' activities raise concerns about privacy, freedom of expression, and democratic values. On the geopolitical front, China's assertive stance in regional disputes, particularly in the South China Sea, has led to tensions with neighboring countries and concerns about maritime security and freedom of navigation. The Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure and economic development project, has drawn both praise for its potential benefits and criticism for its debt trap policy and environmental impacts. Despite these changes, China remains a key player in global efforts to address climate change, poverty alleviation, and sustainable development. Its democratic engagements, economic partnerships, and contributions to internal organizations shape its image and influence on the world stage. And there you have it, the 10 most hated countries in the world. While these nations may evoke strong opinions, it's essential to remember that perceptions can evolve, and diplomatic efforts can lead to positive change. What are your thoughts on the list? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content. Until next time, stay curious.